In this demonstration we're going to see how to use the label and ref commands to create internal cross-references within the document. The document we have open, the TeX file we have open at the moment is one that was written by Professor Seaton. It's a long document. It details the rules of differentiation and was written for applied calculus students. It's useful for us to work with a long document because it really gets us to utilize the different page number of features of LaTeX. So I've brought up one of the equations in the document and I'm going to put a label on this equation because we want to talk about it elsewhere in the document. So I'm going to say \label, and then I have to give a nickname to this equation. It's best to have some sort of systematic plan for labeling equations, tables, section numbers, figures, etc. Anything that has a number on it, by the way, can have a label attached to it. So that can generate a lot of labels and a lot of names. So as I said, it's best to have a system. And having said that, I'm just going to call this fab equation because I'm only going to be playing around with this one equation. Okay, so that's the equation label put in. That by itself won't do anything, but it does make this equation number and the page upon which it appears accessible to us for use for cross-referencing. So what I'm going to do is scroll right up to the top of the document and write a sentence that talks about that equation. So I'm going to say this document contains one fabulous equation and two smashing tables. And now I'm going to use the number equation, and now I'm going to bring up the ref, and I'm going to do that with EQRef, and going to write in fab equation because that was the nickname I used. The difference between using \ref and \EQRef is that the EQRef will put the parentheses around the number the way that it is for an equation. Is on page ref fab equation. Now you'll notice that I've put a tilde, one of these squiggly signs, in between equation and the ref and page and the ref. The reason for that is that we don't want page breaks to appear in between the equation and then the number, and this sign prevents LaTeX from putting an end of line just here. Now as I was typing that, you may have noticed the hints coming up, and you may have noticed that there were other label names given to me as suggestions of ones I might want to use, other nicknames. They in fact were the labels that were used on the two tables. These were labels that Professor Seaton put in, and they follow a system that he has adopted not just for this document but a whole set of documents that he wrote for applied calculus. So we don't even have to know his system of making up nicknames in order to use them, because TeX Studio helps us out. So let's make use of that. Table, and now I'll just use a ref because I don't want to have a parentheses around the number for a table. I'll put a brace, and I can't quite see it because the hint is obscuring it, but just underneath, there it is, that's better to see, you can see tab mod 1 lec 2 product quotient and then lec2 some constant mult. I happen to know that that one is the first equation. You might be first table, sorry. You might be able to guess that from the wording within the name, but either way, what you could do if you can't remember at all what each of these is just pick one of them, run it, see whether it's right, and then come back and change it. But anyway, we'll select this one and say is on page ref, and again I pick out the reference and table tilde ref, and now I'll pick out the other one, which was product quotient, is on page tilde page ref. Okay, so let's see what that looks like. I'll process it. The messages are obscured from you. I can see them on my screen, but I stretched Text Studio so you could see most of the LaTeX. You're losing the messages, but the message says exited normally, so I know that I can view it. I'll click on the view, and there's a sentence I wrote, and you can see equation 1 is on page 4, table 1 is page 3, and table 2 is on page 4. So let's just scroll down and see if that's true. Page 3 is the first thing with something interesting on it, and that's table 1. So that's page 2. Page 3 does have the table on it, and it said the equation number was on page 4 together with the table, and there it is. There's the table, there's the equation. So you can see how well that's working. Now it seems like a bit of an effort to go to when you could have just numbered them manually. But the reason why you shouldn't ever number anything manually within LaTeX is the following. I'm now going to change all of the numbering and all of the page numbering. For the equation, what I'm going to do, when I find it, here it is, I'm going to look above the equation, and we're going to pretend that for some reason we want these other equations in front to have numbers. What that will do is change the numbering of our equation. At the moment it's equation 1, but if I remove these stars from a line, what happens is each line of the align now has a number on it. So the top line would be 1, 2, 3, and our equation becomes equation 4. Now if you did this in editing and you had done manual numbering, cross-referencing, you'd now have to go back and change every cross-reference to this equation. But with the automatic numbering you don't have to. And in fact I'm going to take it a little bit further. I'm going to use the P option on the table environment to tell LaTeX, or should I say request to LaTeX, that it places the tables on a separate page at the end of the document. So the table numbers aren't going to change, but their location is. Now, I've missed one of the tables. Where is it? Oh, there it is. There's the last one. Now I'll save, process, and now I will view. You'll see the tables are at the end of the document. That's table 1 and table 2. You can't quite see the page number because the view of this screen obscures it, but it is page 5. I'll then go up and we'll see that our equation is equation 4, and then there's equation 1, 2 and 3 ahead of it. So let's check that the initial sentence has kept track with all of those changes, and you can see this document contains one fabulous equation, 2 smashing tables, and equation 4 is on page 3, table 1 is 5, and table 2 is on page 5. So it has properly updated the cross-referencing here without us having to touch it.